8:53 a.m. Tommy Boyd on Talksport.
Alexei will steal the show in 5 seconds, steal the show in 4 seconds, steal the show in 3 seconds, steal the show in 2 seconds, steal the show. Show! I'm gonna steal it! 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 Wake up, you're alive!
Good evening, thanks to the guys for an excellent 5:05. We'll be harking back on what they had to say about the day's football action a little bit later on Talksport. This is the Saturday evening phone-in. I'm Tommy Boyd. If you're a regular listener, you will know that the first 2 hours of the Saturday evening phone-in from 8 until 10 o'clock are given over to wrestling. Mainly the American scene, which is huge in the United States, WWF and all of that. But increasingly over the last weeks and months, we've been picking up on the growing British scene. And the best man to have at your side to talk about both what goes on in America and what goes off in the United Kingdom is former and future British heavyweight wrestling champion, Alex Shane. How are you, Alex?
I'm just recovering from Saturday. Apologies for not being on the show. I was wrestling at high school hell in Harrow. We'll talk about that a little bit later on.
I really want to find out all about that. We'll do that a little bit later on.
Definitely a big night.
Okay, and we've got some clips from some of the action that actually happened there, so that people who are used to WWF and what the Americans can do and haven't managed to catch some of the events that are staged in this country will have their first opportunity to get a feel, get the flavour of the kind of thing that's starting to take off in the United Kingdom, which is going to be fantastic. I've got news about January the 19th for people who have reserved their tickets or are thinking about perhaps reserving tickets for what Talksport is billing as the greatest night of British wrestling ever. I've got news, some conversations I've had with American agents about wrestlers there, and Alex thoughts about one or two British wrestlers who are being lined up to take part in what does promise to be a great evening. I want to get some thoughts from anybody who's got hold of the new WWF computer game, SmackDown, which came out yesterday. I was lucky that one of my son's friends managed to get hold of one. They went like hotcakes. And I was reasonably impressed, but then I'm not a computer games expert, so that's an important thing to talk about, because I wouldn't be at all surprised if WWF make more money out of selling their computer games in this country than any other any other type of exercise. So we'll be talking about that. But what we really want, it's a phone-in show, is you on the phones. So the number is, make a note, 08704 20 20 20. We're interested in your questions and observations about the last 7 days of WWF and the Alliance and all of that. Oh, and by the way, William Regal is featured in the new SmackDown computer game, and very funny he sounds and looks on that as well. But anyway, but what's caught your eye and what's caught your ear, and what do you think about what's going off? And one question that a young listener put to me during the week said, why is it that in tag team events on television the bad guys are always bottom right as you look at them from the main camera? You see, this is what young people, they can be very observant, and I hadn't noticed that. Alex
I hadn't
Shane
noticed that either.
Hadn't noticed that. Is it true? It's like in comedy double acts. The funny one always stands on the left as you look at them. But we'll come back to that another time. Don't worry about that, Shane. So, WWF, is there anything particular, Alex, that's leapt out at you over the last 7 days?
Well, I mean, the big news in wrestling at the moment is obviously Survivor Series coming around the corner, possibly the biggest night in wrestling history as we know it. It will come down to the WWF versus the Alliance now. As much as this is a storyline, it's also something that's very real in a lot of people's minds. A lot of people in the WWF worried if they genuinely are going to have jobs coming after this Sunday. WWF recently laid off more employees in one time than any other period in the history of the Federation. So I think now, well, a lot of people backstage are wondering whether they are going to have a job seriously. They may be joking deal, and you know, I want to know whether people think that the WWF are going to win, whether the Alliance are going to win, and also Stone Cold Steve Austin, is he turning babyface? Is he still going to be a heel? Good guy, bad guy? I don't know exactly what is going to happen with him at the moment, but I'd like to know what people think is going to happen and what they'd like to see from him.
Yeah, we're interested in your observations and questions about WWF stateside wrestling. Also, if you want to talk about the British scene, there are two things there. We're seeing more and more British wrestling, not nearly enough, but we are convinced that it's going to happen. And Talksport, myself, FWA, Alex Shane, people like Nikita, probably the UK's #1 woman wrestler. We've got to find out about that in the ring over the coming, I suppose, 6 to 12 months. She's here as well. She'll be reading your emails out if you want to email the show. You probably know the drill. You go to talksport.net on your PC and click the button that says email the show. There's another button there that enables you to read the emails. So if you find the switchboard solid, you can always get involved in the dialogue, which usually manages to emerge on our email setup. The last 2 or 3 weeks, it's been dominated by the debate about whether or not the blood that you see on television wrestling is real. My position is absolutely clear. From time to time, it is real. Hey, people bleed, you know, like in the bathroom. Of course, sometimes they bleed. But when it's the focal point of a fight, I'm absolutely convinced it's makeup. 08704 20 20 20 is the number, or you can email us. Nikita will read your email out. It's talksport.net. Click the button that says email the show. And if you're on the move, if you're with Vodafone, you can text message us. The number is 81089. Once again, that's 81089. Right after the break, Alex, can we talk a little bit about the bumping and grinding that went on this time last week?
A lot more bumping than grinding, but we'll definitely speak about it, I'm
Good night,
sure.
was it? A good night?
It was good and bad in so many different ways.
You put your serious face on every time I mention last Saturday.
It was probably the scariest, on hand on my heart, the scariest night I've ever had inside of a wrestling ring. I'll explain a little bit about it later on, but it was definitely not for the faint-hearted. Later
on in the show, it's your chance, listening to Talksport, to win great football prizes, from UEFA champion tickets to a year's subscription to ITV Digital when we play In the Box with ITV Digital. 08704 20 20 20. 2 hours of wrestling talk from 8 until 10 every Saturday evening on Talksport with Nikita, Alex Shane, Tommy Boyd.
Order! Order! Can I ask the right honourable gentleman how he has come to be so well informed upon the complexities of the current social, political and economic conditions? Might I direct the right honourable gentleman's attention to Talk Sport upon a Sunday night at 8 p.m, where Steve Norris kicks conversational bottom. Steve Norris, a right honourable good listen.
Says I.
Tomorrow evening from 8 on Talk Sport.
24,000 miles, 7 continents, 4 contestants, no lifelines. National Geo Genius, the quiz show for anyone who knows a Singapore sling from a Russian blue. Hosted by Juliette Morris.
Well done, you got there.
So if you're a bit of a genius, prove it tomorrow at 9 on National Geographic Channel.
There is, you will agree, certain je ne sais quoi about a firm young carrot.
At last, the cult classic With Nail and I is released on DVD.
We've gone on holiday by mistake. We want the finest wines available to humanity. We want them here, and we want them now.
Available on video and for the first time ever on fully loaded DVD. Digitally remastered and packed with special features.
To a delightful weekend in the country.
With Nail and I, a trip worth taking.
24,000 miles, 7 continents, 4 contestants, no lifelines. National Geo Genius, tomorrow at 9 on National Geographic Channel.
Big sport for a big station on 1089 and 1053 AM. Talk Sport. FWA.
Taking stacks of calls on the Survivor Series, and we'll be taking those calls in just a moment. But as we've got Alex here and Nikita, how are you, Nikita? Are you well on
very
there?
well, thank you.
Super, you're looking great. We've got the emails coming through. You were wrestling last Saturday.
I wasn't wrestling so much. I had a little
contract signing, was it?
contract signing,
Right.
and I got hit with a chair.
Oh, so you fell over even though it wasn't official. Fine.
Yes.
Well, not fine, but we'll get to that. So, Alex, what happened? As I said, you put your serious face on every time I've mentioned the high school, hell at the high school. Some things didn't go off?
Well, I mean, this is going to be one of those things, because ever since the whole thing with the old school and new school started, I'd said that it was playing with fire. Now, someone obviously took my words very much to heart, because I basically near enough got set on fire at the end of that show. A lot of people, I've said this before, I was really, and this is, whether people think this is just trying to sell tickets or not, I really don't give a toss, to be honest, because this is genuinely how I feel about it. I said from the very beginning of this angle, I thought that it was wrong to play with a storyline and a subject matter that there was so much controversy about, because the newer younger guys don't like the older guys and vice versa, and we've always known that. To get an angle where the guys don't like each other, it's turned so real. Basically, by the end of this match, it was actually me against Drew McDonald.
Yeah.
I spoke about how he legitimately busted my face open on the last show. We had a match. The match was actually so violent, and this is a fact, that we've been barred from that venue. We're not going back there now. That was the last one at Harrow High School.
The organisers have said...
The organisers said we can't go back because it was literally that violent. The bit of commentary that we've got lined up will show some of that violence.
Yeah, Mark Priest was the guest on the show last week, and then he rushed off at 10 o'clock because he was keen on catching your fight, and he made it. And we've got some of his commentary of one of the key moments in your bout.
Dino Scarlo will pay for interfering in Alex Shane's match with Drew McDonald. And I've lost sight of them, ladies and gentlemen. Wait, there they are. They're on the first floor balcony of the auditorium. Oh, Alex Shane runs Dino Scarlo's head. Scarlo bounced off it like a rubber ball. Again, Alex Shane rams Dino Scarlo's head into an object. The glass smashed. Dino Scarlo has got to be down for the count. But no, he's up. No, no. Oh my word. He's pushed Alex Shane off the first floor balcony. Shane has tumbled to the ground as Scarlo celebrates. Shane is broken in half.
How big a fall was that?
The balcony itself was about 20 foot. I'm 6'5.5", so from it actually looks like a hell of a drop. We managed to wipe out some of the audience as well. Where it was literally what happened. The match was as far as from an entertainment point of view, it was one of the best matches I've had. Looking at it, because it literally destroyed the whole arena. We managed to destroy the concession stand. I took a German suplex on the stage, which was a wooden stage. Tombstone Drew McDonald on the concrete floor. It was really, really intense. And the second bang you hear on that is me actually sending Dino Scarlo head first for a stained glass window, which cost £2,000.
I don't know if Zach can find the bump on that, and we can just take a listen to that again. But that is actuality.
That's a £2,000 stained glass window. Dino Scarlo going head first. He actually
humanity against glass,
hanging out, and this is a fact. He was hanging out of the side of the building, and anyone that was at the show, basically,
sounds pretty authentic to me.
What happened? The end of the show ended up with Rob Brookside. Now, a lot of people have praised Rob Brookside in the past, and I've been one of them, coming in claiming that he really is the British champion. It's a fact that not many people can dispute. You know, Rob Brookside's one of the most respected. Then, in something that was, in something that people may think was planned, wasn't planned, Drew McDonald said something along the lines that he'd been saying on the internet about taking me to the fires of hell and doused me in petrol. Now, when you see these things happen in WWF, people will obviously know that that stuff is water. Okay, anyone that was at that venue will smell the petrol from. I had people that were stage and they could smell the petrol. He pulled out a lighter. Now, this was honestly one of the scariest moments in my career. Whether people don't believe it or not, I really don't care. It genuinely was. And luckily the FWA locker room filtered out, which I think was going to happen anyway, but it was a really, really scary moment. And this has all come to a head now. Acton, December the 14th. Tacky name, Camera Acton. It's quite funny. FWA, but I'm putting down this now. I don't care who the tag team partner is. I know that the match is marketable, and I know it's going to be a fight, and this time it really is going to be much more of a fight, because there's a lot more malice behind this now. I'm going to take on Drew. I want Drew and Flash Barker now, Mr. Blonde, the guy on me. I know if I say it on air now, the promoters are going to have to book it. I haven't thought of a tag team partner yet. I don't particularly care. I'll pick someone, but that's the match, because I know they've got Doug Williams. Rob Brookside's going to be taken care of by Doug Williams. That'll be a hell of a match, but there's a lot of big stuff going on. So that's December 14th in Acton.
Hey, Alex, that's a great review of what's like an incredible night. If you want to Alex about the British scene, a reminder that Alex is also the man if you're interested in getting involved in wrestling. His wrestling school is a growing concern, and he's anxious to reach all parts of the country. So it doesn't matter how far away you live from goddamn London, which sadly for so many things seems to centre of everything in this country. I think it's a great shame. Alex, I know, is keen to get out on the road, and he's looking for wrestlers in Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland for sure, the West Country, every part of the United Kingdom, because Alex, as you can tell by what he says, is very keen to get the British wrestling scene right back to where it used to be and better. He's also our expert if you want to talk about the American scene. And let's get cracked straight into the calls now, because we started the show, Alex mentioned the Survivor Series, and boof, the lights came on. Alec in Ashton-under-Lyne is our first call show this evening. Alec, you're on Talksport. You've got
Hello.
Alex Shane here.
Well, I'd just like to talk about the big match in Survivor Series.
Go for it, mate.
Who do you think will win?
Oh, this is a really tricky one. Personally, I wouldn't even like to pick at the moment, because there's been a lot of talk. A lot have said that the WWF are expected to lose because of this whole lawsuit. I don't know if you know, the lawsuit has been filed by the World Wildlife Fund, which they have actually lost. The WWF are appealing against, and it means that they may actually lose the rights to use the name of the WWF. Now, if this happens, obviously that's a huge blow for the WWF. But what I want to say is the appeal isn't actually going to be finalised. They won't get a verdict on this until April. So it'll leave the WWF to lose money they've spent on the appeal. In terms of a storyline, I'd actually like to see WCW win. I'd like to see the Alliance win, because it'd be good if they can split the two companies like we spoke about on this show for a long, long time. But who would you like to see win, Alec?
I'd like to see WWF, but I think WCW have got a stronger side.
I'd probably have. What about Austin? Something a lot of people are going to want to talk about. Where do you see him? Good guy, bad guy, or in the middle? Oh, that's obviously a tricky one.
Yes, I think Alex has got some mates there, and he's having a little convention, getting back to you with your with his answer. Go on, Alec.
I'm not sure.
Listen, fella, thanks very much indeed for your call. 08704 20 20 20 is the number. 2 hour wrestling talk from 8 until 10 on a Saturday evening. Tommy Boyd, Alex Shane is here. We're joined as well by Nikita, the United Kingdom's leading woman wrestler. Although such is the state of British wrestling, which is getting back on its feet finally after a long time in the doldrums. You haven't got too many people to wrestle against yet, have you?
I haven't, no. It's very unfortunate.
Well, yeah. I suppose if I were to have an operation, I could legitimately call myself the number 2, couldn't I?
That would be marvellous.
No, it wouldn't.
I think
for a bunch of reasons, but
I think politically, actually, starting a women's division in the FWA is good and bad. It's good in the fact that, we do feel that women's division, and when we say women's division, we've done kind of like what you see in the WF. We mean a proper, legitimate women's side of wrestling. Where they can actually wrestle and are actually having proper competitive matches. The only problem is, during Nikita's contract signing, basically what happened was Dino Scarlo and Drew McDonald came out from the old school and gave Nikita, and anyone that saw this, one of the most chair shots I've ever seen. The lump on her head was fairly large. After they actually called in the St. John's ambulance, the guy came in about 3 times and was really, really concerned about it. And although, obviously I think we really do need to get some women. If women out there listening that want to become female wrestlers, seriously contact us. Go to www.alexshane.com. There's links on that for the wrestling school, because we can't justify having a women's division unless we have some really good women, because we don't want to give people a second-rate division.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're listening and I don't know, a woman pole vaulter, I don't know, a women athlete, women maybe who have done a little bit of bodybuilding but not seen it through, I don't know, women gymnasts, perhaps, I don't know. People who are athletic, people who are good on their feet, got good physique, but at the same time have got a good brain, and understand a little bit about, a crowd, how to work a crowd. Those are the kind of credentials. We're not looking necessarily for a woman like Chyna, because you see, my worry is this: Chyna is so far and away the most famous woman wrestler there's ever been, that if women know anything about wrestling, I find it's through their boyfriends. If they've seen any of it, they'll only seen one woman wrestler, and that is Chyna, who is, in terms of just the size and what she could do, a real one-off, a freak. You don't have to be like Chyna.
but I get several. I mean, even in the last week, I've had several girls phone up and say, does it matter that they're like not really big and muscular? And in a lot of that's actually, I wouldn't say it's a negative because you need a bit of thing, but I wouldn't, definitely in some ways it's a positive because obviously, you know, the way we're looking at it at the moment is, whereas a lot of the women in WWF, they have matches, but they're basically used as what can be termed as eye candy, basically. It's not a competitive thing. It doesn't really matter how the women look. Obviously, it'd be nice if they were attractive, but at the same time, as a man speaking, what we care about is the question that actually goes on in the ring. We're not going to dilute what the FWA is putting out by putting on bad female matches. We just want it to be equal to what the men are doing, and I think it can be. And by seeing Nikita in the ring, I know it can be. She does springboard planches to the outside of the ring and things like that, which moonsaults, which other women in this country I haven't seen do. If we find opponents and get that division up and running, I think one of the most exciting aspects of British wrestling.
Okay, well, we'll be giving out the email addresses and means by which you can contact Alex and his team as the show goes on, so stay tuned. Let's go now to Richard, who's called the show from London. Hi, Richard, you're on Talksport. We're talking wrestling.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Oh, yeah.
Welcome back, Alex.
Cheers, mate.
Right, several quick points about Survivor Series. If Matt Hardy isn't dumping Lita very soon, I will be really surprised. However, I would advise caution, because look at how Edge and Christian are after their split. Have we seen Christian involved in any matches for Survivor Series? No, we just saw him losing to the Big Show on Monday night, even on SmackDown.
Yeah, but we knew he was going. We said this on this show. Even I knew that.
I think that's a really valid point, actually, Richard, because the fact of the matter is, you know, a lot of people, maybe a year ago or a year and a half ago, the Hardy Boys splitting up would have actually meant something. Because
not now.
Not now. It really doesn't. They will be lost in the shuffle.
Yeah.
I do think that it's obvious that Jeff, well, then again, you know, WWF may swerve us, but I don't think they're stupid. They don't want to lose those female fans. They could swerve us by turning Jeff as the heel. Personally, I think it makes more sense to make Jeff the babyface, because he's, out of the two, he's the one you'd want to... I actually have an in-joke. It's quite... it's not even an in-joke. It's... I do a really funny impression of Matt Hardy, because I think it's so amusing that he does this big thing where Jeff goes to the top rope, puts his fingers in his mouth and goes, oh, and does this amazing, like, swanton bomb. And Matt does the same thing with a second-rate leg drop. It just doesn't seem as exciting to me. So, you know, and he was a guest show, and as a wrestler, he's superb. But I do think, as far as keeping the imagination of the fans going, I think they need to really keep Jeff as a babyface, because he's someone that could get over.
Sorry, can I make two really quick points, too?
Sure,
and then I'll hang up and give somebody else a chance.
Okay, Richard, you're a pro caller.
Okay, with the women's match, there's going to be a mystery opponent. Money's on Jazz, because she's signed for them recently. And the women that they've got there, she's the most technically gifted that's in the developmental groups at the moment. So I expect her to come in and take on Lita. Plus, I think they've wrestled at house shows, so it makes sense for that to happen.
I think that probably will happen, and I think that's a good move as well, because I know they've got some women under contract that are really attractive. I've you know, obviously names that is some of the people that have taken from WCW in the past. I do think that's a good thing that they're going with someone who is actually, out of all of them, the most athletically gifted, and I think they're moving that division in the right direction.
And I think Lita needs a strong opponent, because she is like the female Rock in terms of women's wrestling at the moment.
Yeah.
I think that's a very
and the last thing is Paul Heyman. His promo on SmackDown was fantastic.
I missed it, and I've totally heard it's one of the best things that they've done at the moment. It's
watch it again. Had he been in charge of the alliance as opposed to Stephanie and Shane, it really would have meant something. It would have had menace behind it, because he really is a fantastic heel talker.
He's a great act. What was he before he was involved in wrestling? Does anyone know?
He's been involved in wrestling for a long, long time.
He wasn't like an actor or a ventriloquist?
No, not as far as I know. He's always been a massive fan of wrestling. He started as a manager back when he was, I think, late teens, early 20s, and he's just been doing it, and he's been favourite people to watch for a long, long time, and it's a shame that he hasn't been given as much, as Richard said, as much of a lead in this whole feud that he should have been.
Way back in the Hogan era, and, you know, Rick the Martel and the Model, the rest of it, he often used to have a real focal point the other side of the ring. He was lit the other side of the ring. He wasn't actually doing anything, it's just that he looked good. Do you know what I mean? What was his promo about, Richard? What happened? Just quickly describe it.
Okay, very quickly. I don't know if some of your listeners will know that he actually used to be the owner of ECW, and I think it went into bankruptcy, and WWF bought up certain rights to it. Well, it's actually the subject of a court case. And basically, all the stories that have been circling over the years about Vince McMahon screwing Bret Hart at Survivor Series, and about how Vince lied to his father about what he was going to do with the company, and how Paul had ideas from ECW and called it attitude. He used those on the show and actually insulted Vince, and just you have a chance to insult your boss, and you say everything you wanted to say to your boss and you couldn't, and he said it, and I think there are lots of people actually thinking, yes, that was brilliant. I don't know how many got, because I think some serious wrestling fans would understand the references, and other people who just watch it as entertainment wouldn't.
This is what was actually said in the Wrestling Observer. They said, as much as it was one of the best interviews someone's ever done in his whole career, it may have gone over the heads of at least 80% of the audience. So that is a problem when you're doing these insights and things only appeal to a market. That's one of the risks you run. But it does mean that people who understand it are really, really going to love it.
Interesting, very interesting. Richard, that was a great call. Thank you for all of that. If you're listening and you'd like to take part, 08704 2020 is the number. If you've been following the American wrestling scene, you might want to comment on or ask questions about any aspect of wrestling begins to get going again in this country, which is wonderful. You can email us. Nikita is looking after the email side of the show this evening, talksport.net. You want the button that says email the show. Then you can text us if Vodafone 81089 is the number. 2 hours link talk from 8 until 10 every Saturday evening on Talksport. I'm Tommy Boyd.
The winning constituent plays Stick It for Your Ticket all next week on the Sports Breakfast.
If we read your name, you've got 45 minutes to call the station and win the value of your Premiership Club season ticket in cash.
To take part, pick up a brand new Talksport caster at moto service areas everywhere. It's non-winning when we play Stick It for Your Ticket all week on the No-Nonsense Sports Breakfast from 6. In association with CIS, the insurance people who believe in fair play.
Look at that jacket, it's just what I want.
Well, why don't you buy it?
Well, I would, but the amount I'd pay out on credit cards is a worry.
Oh, Carl, I thought you were so sensible with money.
Well, these things mount up.
OK, we'll just sort out. A low-cost loan to pay off all your debts. I did it with Dull for a loan, and now I have no outstanding bills to worry about.
You make it sound so easy.
It is. Dull for a loan offer a free, no-obligation service to us. You can call them now on free phone 0800 915 0011. They might be able to do that fresh start you're looking for.
0800 95 11. But I'm a bit embarrassed about the state of my finances.
Don't be. That's what Dull for a loan is there for. You could reduce your monthly outgoings by up to 70% and even have over for those little luxuries in life. Maybe even that good.
That'd be great. Can I borrow your phone? If you're a homeowner, dial for a loan from 0800 95 0011. Loan secured on property and subject to status. Written quotations available on request.
For some people, football's a matter of life and death. But at Talksport, we know it's more than that. Which is why we put football first. Football Talksport. Every night from 7, hear all the top-class commenting that you've come to expect from Talksport. And every Saturday afternoon from 2, hear all the goals as they go in. And full classified results for every league. Football first, 10:18 and 10:53 a.m. Talksport.
On 10:09 and 10:50 a.m. Tommy Boy on Talksport.
Let's go to Salvatore, who's line from L Street. Hi, Salvatore. You're on Talksport. It's wrestling.
Hi. Hi, Alex. I've got for Survivor Series.
Go for it.
I reckon that the last two in the big 10-man will be Rock and Austin, and Rock to the ends, and Austin will go to the WWF, and it'll be like beautiful somehow, and then it will all end when Rock and Austin fight at Vengeance.
I'll tell you what, it's a risky one, but it would be a good one if they pull it off. The thing I'd say against it, because a lot of people are concerned that a lot of people are against the idea of Austin going back as a babyface, and they're concerned it won't quite work. They've got Triple H one in the wing. Vince was ready to wheel him out at Survivors to one of the original plans that they were discussing was actually taking the Big Show out and putting Triple H in as a mystery partner. I don't know what's going to happen there. A lot of people said that Triple H will be ready in time, but if Austin fails as a babyface and they do decide to make Rock a heel, then maybe Triple H should get that babyface role. It's just that although The Rock is not as popular as he was about a year ago and people were disappointed at his popularity, I don't know if they'll take the risk of turning him.
I've got two theories on this. Very quickly, Salvatore.
Yeah.
One is, I think you're right about Austin, because I caught him smiling at Vince, and Vince smiling back, and that's the first time I've seen Vince smile for about 2 years. I saw that. I think you could be right there. But the other thing is this. SmackDown came out yesterday, and I had a quick look at it myself, and I was very interested to notice that Stone Cold was designated WWF on this new computer game. Now, I don't know whether that's because that's what he was way back when they put together this new computer, or whether they've had some consultations with the people who put together the storylines for WWF, for Vince, and said that when it goes on sale, i.e. just before Christmas, which is critical to their sales, they do 7% of their business in the 25% of time leading up to Christmas. We'd like this computer game to reflect as clear as possible and be happening, Vince, with your wrestling set up around about November, December.
That's an interesting one. One of the only problems with it is that a lot of the people in WWF are complaining at the moment. Got a lot like WCW was tools. Things are being run day to day. A lot of people don't know what's in like next week, let alone next month and stuff.
Next month.
So that could be a problem. Then again, the thing you can go with people like Rock, Austin, Helmsley, Angle, their turns, with the exception of maybe Angle's one recently, are normally playing quite well in advance. They get a lot more preferential treatment when it comes to being told what they're going to be doing in advance. They are the fish.
Can I ask you a question?
Go for it.
This one. It's a good one. I've been thinking of asking you for a while. I'm going to do it on the radio rather than in the back room where we normally have our yaks. On January the 19th, we're putting together a show. Everybody knows that sports entertainment, and that wrestlers have a reasonably good idea of a lot of the action that's going to take place in the ring. What would happen if we staged a bout in which two wrestlers who had deliberately been kept apart, right, and were told that the winner would take all, okay? What might happen, just in theory, if we would stage what would amount to a 100% genuine bout?
It would do one of two ways. It would either be very short and very sweet. As one of the things I found out as a doorman is when you see fight scenes in films that go on for like several minutes, not how it happens. Most fights end with one punch. It's just one that manages to connect. Or it'll be a total stalemate and you'll see a headlock beam for half an hour. The times when this has happened, it happened with actually Antonio Inoki and Muhammad Ali, which was one of the really, really famous ones. And it was just a total shambles because the promoter lied and blah, blah, blah. And it depends the people you put in the ring. But it's just one of those things. WWF tried this with the Brawl for All a couple of years ago. They actually got there to do a legit fighting tournament. It was people, Bart Gunn was one of them, Bradshaw was in it, and it was actually Bart Gunn who surprised everybody and won because he'd done some tough man contests. Now the big letdown with this, they did, imagine it for those people that don't know, bringing in Dr. Death Steve Williams. The guy had been over in the WCW, he was WCW NWA teams, but he was rich in Japan. He was American stroke Japanese legends in Japan. And Jim Ross had a fixation with him, loved him, remembered him from his days in the UWF, so they wanted to bring him to the WWF. And because he's got a legit tough man reputation, they said, we'll do this tournament Brawl for All. Jim Ross said, trust Steve Williams in it, he'll win it. And because he's not a very good talker, people will love genuinely. He got taken out by Gunn in the first round, and because of that, Bart Gunn spent the rest of his career in purgatory in Japan. So these things can really send the up.
I was going to say, what you've told me is that they do have a standout quality, such an event.
If it's advertised in the right way,
do they want it?
Maybe one every. Personally, I had this discussion recently with someone because they said to me, I always get hard, as I've said, about coming out and explaining that wrestling isn't, when I say, I'm not going to say it isn't real because it's a lot real than people think, but it is 95% predetermined, okay, and I'm not going to make any bones of that. The 5% obviously is waiting to hear, but I think the majority of wrestling fans, no one believes it is real, okay, they go to bits that are real, but I think if they wanted to see real stuff, they'd probably go and watch a boxing match, although if you had one match possibly that was like that, it could appeal to everybody. I just don't, I think you're crossing certain boundaries, and then for example, what happens if you decide this is something I'll put forward, what if you do this, you decide to bring two tough guys, okay, they come in, they're not wrestlers, they're martial art people, whatever. One of them, because he's so good at what he does, becomes really popular with the fans. Then they want to do a match where it's this guy who's just a legit fighter, can't wrestle, against this guy. The match will either be a shambles or your top wrestler's going to end up looking very silly, going to be beat in 2 minutes.
I have to say, I'm glad you're in that full day that you did. I saved the best bits to last, which is that we've taken on a lawyer who's going to be helping on the 19th with all the various things that you have to cover yourself when it past him, and he said, you're not allowed to do it in the law. Really? You can't stage fight.
Really?
No, you can't stage a real fight. You can stage a Marquis of Queensberry boxing fight, a real fight, because that's covered in law. But what you can't stage is a punch-up or a wrestling match which hasn't been given the professional consideration that people such as yourself and Vince McMahon give to the entertainment that they put on.
Another problem is as well, because wrestling's the way it is, I mean, you're talking of an industry when Omar tragically and died, people shouted fix. You got on two people kicking the crap out of each other and they probably wouldn't believe it anyway.
No, it's called a breach of the peace. So there has to be a station at some point. Mind you, having seen most of Chris Eubanks, I'm not sure whether boxing is isn't in the same sort of bracket as an awful lot of wrestling that goes on. Okay, interesting. 7:04:20. You may have heard me refer to January the 19th. That's an event that's taking place in London. Talksport have lent their support to the event, and you will be able to talk to the lawyer in question who's going to be working on behalf of everybody who's putting that event together, because he's actually going to be phoning on this station from 1 o'clock this evening. Nice little surprise. I'll be talking about that a little bit later on. Nikita, some emails that have been coming in. You got them to view?
Yes, there seems to be a rumour going around Shane McMahon will join the WWF. I've got 2 emails on that. One from Jay Hadley in Exmouth. He says, "Hi, I love the show. What do you think of the McMahon will join the WWF on Sunday, both the Federation Alliance together?" And Nima from Sussex even thinks that Bischoff will be announced as the owner of the WW.
Alex?
That there's smoke, but it could be some fire there, because I know Vince about 6 months ago was trying to contact Eric Bischoff to come in, and the problem with Eric Bischoff, bad enemies on screen and often with Vince, that it was a legitimate thing, and I think Bischoff may be selling his soul to the devil coming on board the WWF and being huge ridicule.
How old is Shane? Do you know? Ish.
Nikita, do you know?
How old is he roughly?
I have no idea. Mid-50s, I'd say.
No,
Shane?
The boy.
Oh, Shane. Shane, probably 35.
That's what I figure, you see. Now, what's interesting is they're working hard on this Jerry Springer, trailer trash, dysfunctional family, and the whole family, where Vince is always having punch-ups with his son. Now, it's okay for Vince to come across as a dad figure, because he looks like a dad, because he is legitimately 50-something or other. Shane, I mean, when he, find the curtain and he's wearing kind of like a Hawaiian shirt and he does that little dancey thing, that doesn't work for me. Cause
it works for some people, but personally,
I'm a big fan of Shane's.
You are?
Really?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
You rate him, do you?
Yes, I do.
Why?
I don't know. I think he's got a great. He's just got charisma.
He's the feeling as well, isn't he?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh well, you're gonna tell him you like him, aren't you?
I will.
Yeah. I mean,
I like Linda, if anyone's listening.
She's a fine woman as well.
I like Steph as well, but
you mentioned you talked about WWF as in wrestling and WWF as in the World Wildlife Fund. This came up in the show last week with Master Priest. They're opening an office in London, WWF, but apparently, although it said in the paper, an interview I read with Linda McMahon, it's already opened. It hasn't, because on behalf of this, I telephoned direct inquiries and asked for a telephone number for WWF in London, and so they gave me one. But of course, the number that I got. They're not here yet.
Linda actually held a press conference this week, and she said the offices in London will be opening shortly. What she also said, which is interesting, is that in the WWF, it's only about 5% of their marketing has been overseas, such as Rebellion and things like that. Now, starting from next year, 20 to 20% of their overseas. So the chances of you being able to see the WWF live in this country are a lot higher. Now, obviously, that's good for WWF fans. That's bad for British promoters, wrestlers. But at the same time, in some ways, if a lot of people, I know a lot of people that have gone to WWF, for example, I had two people come to the show at Harrow. They'd never been at a show before until they went to Rebellion. They got dragged along by their children, and they liked it so much, they actually asked their children to come to Harrow High School. So in some ways, we'll see wrestling live. They might be interested in a live show because it is a spectacle. So it could be positive and negative, but we won't find out until next year.
Okay, 08704 20 20 20. Let us Stuart in Preston. Hi, Stuart. You're on the show. Welcome.
Hi, yeah, good evening, Tom and Alex.
Hi, mate.
Yeah, the only question I had was, it seems to me that some of those statistics are over-exaggerated.
Yeah, I mean...
No, I know that some of them seem to be over-exaggerated and other ones seem to be more legit. I don't know.
What is your in mind for as exaggerated?
The Undertaker and Kane. Now, they're often billed as 7-footers.
Yeah,
now, I find it a little bit hard to believe.
I'd say Kane maximum is 6'7". I know from a fact, I've said this on a show before, the boots that Kane wears, I wrestle in exactly the same.
Quite high, don't
2 3/4 inch lifts on them, 3-inch lifts.
Right.
When I wear them, I'm legitimately I shouldn't even say on the air, but sod it anyway. I'm a legitimate 6'9" when I wear those boots. So,
Right.
but I've been told that I'm not that much shorter than Kane. So, and I'm like 6'5.5", and I'm 6. I think I'm 6'6", legitimately. So,
I was with Darren Matthews, and one of the things that I did was work out how tall William Regal is, and then I saw William Regal standing in the ring, actually toe-to-toe with him, a standoff thing, and I was able to work exactly how tall Kane is, and I think I said something.
Legitimately huge, no getting away from, is the Big Show.
He's phenomenal.
Is he genuinely over 7 foot, the Big Show?
He's
enormous.
Listen, I'll tell you how you only have to listen to voice, which sounds like it's coming from the middle of a mountain
as well.
And it gets me back to one of my things, which is that Vince has to go very carefully with the Big Show. Because if he allowed the Big Show to actually take centre, which he would if it were real and it were going off in the car park, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay, they'd never dislodge him. It wouldn't be plausible for dislodge him, and Vince would be stuck with another Hulk Hogan, and he doesn't want that.
A lot of people found it quite surprising that they actually the Big Show down to a Chris Benoit submission. Now, personally, I think if it came down to a real fight, and it's been made controversial, I think Benoit would win a Big Show. A lot of people are going to say that's not true, but I know Chris Benoit legitimately is a tough guy. But I do realise that to your casual audience, and the WWF needs to recognise more that their casual audience is in some ways a lot more important, because the WWF is always, this is one thing they realise in that, WWF is always very, very popular when they've got someone like a Steve or the casual audience can look up to. You see kids clubs wearing heavy metal club Steve Austin t-shirts because he's a cool character. And so I personally believe that things like putting the Big Show down someone like Chris Benoit may make the audience think, well, that's not very realistic. No, but then again...
I remember somebody on last week saying that he didn't move well, and Andre Giant was quite a technical wrestler, but if you compare Big Show to Andre the Giant, he moves around quite well for his size.
I've actually seen the Big Show do drop kicks off the top rope. This was when he was in WCW. He did one also when he was wrestling in Japan.
He's quite poor.
Yeah, for the size of him.
Very agile. Yeah, I mean, the latest issue of magazine, there's actually a feature on him. It's got of him when he was young. I think it was the latest issue. It might be an old one I was looking at. Yeah, but yeah, and you can tell he was actually quite muscular. And then he discovered two things: alcohol and fast food, and smoking, three things, and it's really slowed him down, and that's why he got weight. But I do think the Big Show does have potential, but he may have just gone past that point where they're interested now.
Yeah.
Also, just last thing, I think we did well out the whole federation is the strongest.
You say pound for pound, pound for pound, or
well, pound for pound and just sheer the sheer strongest out of them all. So I think Albert's going to be up there.
Albert's definitely up there. I think the Big Show, just from natural tendon strength and his size, probably up there. And there'll be some small guys. I know back in...
Pound for pound. Talking pound for pound?
Yeah.
And also, do you remember Animal from the Legion of Doom?
Yeah, I do,
I mean, he was big, but he was never one of the like Undertaker-type guys, but he was legitimately known as doing like 6-pound benches and stuff.
I was going to say, that do you use the bench press as a standard for I think it's about the lift.
Yeah, I'm for ruptured left shoulder joint. I can't actually lower my chest has been a problem. Not my most injured body part's my shoulder. It's also my strongest. It only affects my chest. So if someone wanted to get big, the bench is the best thing for me. The heaviest, I was actually doing 120 kilos when I was 19 years of age, which is that's my biggest 19.
It's what press? Standing press.
Standing press, couldn't even tell. Because training, like actual training, is a lot different to muscular training. Like my warm up, my warm up is like I just grab a quarter of the weight I can do and do like 50 to 60 as a pre-exhaust. So by the time I get onto actually doing proper weights, I've already pre-exhausted them. So
I just wondered if you're curious, just to see if we get over.
Never really,
which is an odd lift. But again, it's a particular test, isn't it?
I found, I'll tell you about it when we come back from the break, but it's something I shot a film today, actually did a fight sequence in a film, and I'll tell you something that when we come back from...
08704 2020 is the number. Stuart, thanks for a great call.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Again, fella.
Bye.
You can email us at message, talksport.net, click the button that says on the show, or you can text us if you're with Vodafone, the number 81089.
Is take a generous helping of post-match analysis. Right to do then, you throw away any unnecessary fat, right? Add some expert comment from the names in the before, marinate with seafood and roast some callers on the fire. That's very important. And then you go for 2 hours of top sporting talk. Voila! And voila! A delicious combination of tantalising and sizzling post-match commentary. 6-5, the only Sunday night sport on the menu. Tomorrow night from 6:05, Talksport.
Association, we ask a question about insurance, then we'll give you a straight sir.
Best
If you want to talk sport on digital radio, you'll get extra punch on the no-nonsense sports breakfast.
Are you talking to me? Yes, in clear digital.
You'll get distortion-free dicking.
And that's official.
Extras on sports.
Digital horse, I think so.
And more ha-ha from Hawksby and Jace.
New forum spitless.
It's some great sports radio, but with superb sound quality. No need to retune on the move. No hiss. No crackle. Soon will be the way that everyone listens to the radio. Find out more at ukdigitalradio.com. Digital Radio tomorrow's.
In the last one, another person was prosecuted for benefit fraud. If you're at it, time's running out.
The UK best sports radio station. Talk Sport.
Well, it's the big show. Yes, big show tonight.
interested in your views on WWF, the American scene, question observations, growing British scene. You can send your emails in. Nikita's looking forward to reading out the pick of them. And Alex is here, Alan, former future British heavyweight wrestling champion. You can talk to him about the American scene. The British. He's also interested in partnered animation and helped people who want to get into wrestling, who want to actually have a go at it. To the phones, Liam is our next caller in London. Hi, Liam. Welcome to Talksport.
Hi. Well, I've got 3 interesting points about here. And the first one is how they call the Rock in the Alliance.
Yeah.
Well, as you see, the Rock board that he's WWF. I haven't got a chance that the Rock will join the Alliance. That's about it.
Good point. Thank you for that. Liam, can I get a favour from you? Make one more point. We've got such a heavy switchboard. I could only make 1 point, but I'm going to let you make 2. Is that okay? That's fair, isn't it? So
Yep.
what's your next?
It's about Survivor Series again.
Okay.
Well, have you been seeing, yeah, that, like, 2 titles are joined to the UF? And that might, I know this sounds a bit stupid, but this might be buying the WF winner Survivor, taking titles.
Okay. And the boys looking for clues.
Well, we've had Nikita will say there's stacks of emails suggesting and giving predictions for the Survivor Series. One of them, it just read to me during the break, was actually so good that I said it might not be an idea for her to read it, just for the fact that I think it is what's going on at the end.
Read it then.
We'll spoil it for people.
Oh, no, spoil it for people. I'm staying for it.
All right, just a second.
This is going to find it, has she? Whilst you're looking for that, I've got this for you listening. Don't forget, please, to check our With Nail and Eye competition on Talksport.net. To celebrate the launch of Nail and Eye DVD. If you haven't seen it, I promise it's one of the best 10 movies ever made. It's British, anyway. Where we have 20 brand new copies of With Nail and Eye on a fully loaded and digitally remastered DVD, all packaged up with plenty of special features. So all you have to do to win is log on, Talksport.net, Talksport.net, send Nikita into wrestling and win your own With Nail and Eye DVD with the Nation's Station support.
Yes, I found it now. It's from Luke in Aylesbury, and it says the WWF can't lose because they have totally lost their name, WWF rights. The last 2 minutes Survivor Series is Rock and Austin, and all wins. Vince and him come out, shakes hands with him, then stunners him, and holds up with Vince, and the show ends.
Okay.
I'm convinced that
you reckon
Nikita actually.
Right.
I reckon she says Oyston, exactly how the Queen says.
I
Oyston.
was going to say, are you counties or is German in you? There, your particular and delightful pronunciation of
Austin.
Yeah.
Austin, damn it.
Austin.
That's how people say Austin in lunch.
My very posh.
I say in large, they say Austin, and they've never owned one of those cars, so they're entirely. You know.
You should hear my grandma speak.
Very good.
We're on the show next week.
We were talking. Yeah. I was with my nan yesterday, 100, and she showed me her telegram. The Queen, Elizabeth, had signs it. So it's very strange. It doesn't say Elizabeth. It says Elijah. Oh, no, I thought it was spooky. Well, another conversation. 08704 20 20 20 is the number. Take another call from, well, Dan in Watford, who wants to talk about Stone Cold Steve Austin. Hi, Dan.
Hi, guys.
Go on, fella.
This Cold being in the WWF for the Down game, it was originally, if you look, it's set around WrestleMania 17, when he was still in the WWF. And also, HQ don't have the rights for the WCW men, so they can't have a WCW alliance thing. So they've got to have the WWF at that time, innit?
So it's solved pretty quickly then.
Well, your attention, Dan, I like it. Good man, give you a call.
Cheers, thanks a lot.
Well done. 08704 20 20 20. There are a lot of people watch it with notebooks.
Oh, definitely. There's
tape it and go back and look again.
It's amazing. I think wrestling's definitely at the highs when I'm going to upset a lot of other fans, but they really know their stuff.
I'm upset a lot of shows when I say that the standard, the intelligence and the articulacy of callers that we get to this 2 hours of wrestling on Talk match absolutely anything that you could hear anywhere. And I'm talking about any other, even stuff with Home Office ministers that off ad nauseum radio. I mean, the people who watch this and are interested in it. There's 1 or 2 people who are slightly off, who still think that it's absolutely genuine, and from time will ring and say, you going on about wrestling on a sport radio station for it's not real. They're dumbos, okay? Not people who understand it and recognise pleasure and the nonsense in the nonsense. They're the ones who recognise that the storyline and that they're planned and that is half fun. They're the ones we love. And that's 99% of our switchmen. We're absolutely delighted to listen to every single one of you calling the show. You can do that. News and Sport 08 704 2020 is the number. Email talksport.net. Click on it says email, text, Vodafone 1089. Very quickly, you were in a film.
Yes, Ninja Man, Mark Jackson, a new British director, just produced film some stuff today. I play the role of the lead bad guy in it, and it'll be coming out next year.
Nice.
And I managed to check this out. I managed to just script enough. My phrase, there's two things you can do about it. That's nothing into the script.
Yeah.
It was excellent. I actually did a thing a couple of weeks ago, and I managed to change it there, so I'm trying to be pushy with the catchphrase. And it's starting to get chanted back at shows, which is well. So, in fact, but those two things you can do about it, that's nothing and like it. Just get it cemented in their heads there, Tommy.
08704 2020. This is Talk.
24,000 miles, 7 continents, 4 contestants, no lifelines. National Geo Genius, the quiz show for anyone who knows a Singapore sling from a Rush Loo. Hosted by Juliet.
Well done, you got there.
So if you're a bit of a genius, prove it tomorrow at 9 on National Geographic.
I could never stop worrying. I had loans, smart bills, payments for this, payments for that, but some friends never seemed to worry about money. They were all in to some extent, but hadn't let money get on top of them. I asked what I should do, and they told me about Dial for a Loan and how I could reduce monthly outgoing 70%. Thanks to Dial for a Loan, I've cleared all my debts with one low-cost loan. I even have left over each month to enjoy life a bit more. And don't worry, Dial for a Loan offer a free no obligations list. So if you're a owner, call free on 915 0011. So 800 915 0011.
Loan secured on property and subject to state representations available on
24,000 miles, 7 continents, 4 contestants, lifelines. National Geo Genius, tomorrow at National Geographic Channel.
Talk Sport. Lines from Sky News Centre.
The top stories from the Sky News Centre at 9. It looks like Osama bin Laden is still in Afghanistan. The Taliban's envoy to Pakistan has retracted an earlier statement saying the terrorists the country, and that's been backed up by Pentagon's intel. Hamid Mir, who's the last journalist to bin Laden, thinks it would be for him to leave.
He has 4 wives and 20 children, and maybe he has at least 12 security guards. So this big tent of more than 40 people, it cannot cross the border of Pakistan, cannot the border of Iran, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, China.
Meanwhile, there are signs the political process emerged in some parts of Afghanistan. Governor of Jalalabad has won support again from tribal leaders there, and the former president is back in Kabul, talking of how to set a broad-based coalition to run the country. Sky's Ian Doveston says Pakistan will want to have a leading part in...
Certainly the arrival back in Afghanistan of the former president will strong emotions across the board in Pakistan. The first emotion, of course, will be fear, because up until 1996, the Northern Alliance was no friend of Pakistan.
The FBI says it's looking cold-blooded murder after a second US senator was sent deadly anthrax spores through the post. A letter after he was intercepted by investigators after they noted it looked similar sent to another senator. From all political parties appear to be backing from Mo Molan. Tony Blair's acting more like a president than prime minister. The former Northern Ireland secretary also accuses the P of being at off ground in a rift which is crippling the government. The first funeral for a victim of September the 11th attacks has taken place. Gavin Cooney, who worked on the 4th floor of the Trade Centre, was buried on a remote island in the Hebrides. There's been a small but significant shift towards healing the rifts between Northern Ireland and the Republic. For the first time in a century, the Gaelic Athletic Association is allowing participation by Northern Ireland and armed forces. It expects a rush of new recruits for hurling and Irish football, but most agree it's the direction. Martin Brainey, the Irish Independent.
I think you will find any mad rush among the unionist population or only the British to join the GA. So I think really the day is more apparent than real.
Boxing and the countdown continues. Big Las Vegas. Lennox Lewis aiming to regain world heavyweight belts. American Hasim Rahman knocked Lewis out in April in South Africa. Lewis wins. He'll be the first Briton to become a 3-time heavyweight champion. They've been drawn in the Kendall lottery, and the winning ones are 12, 19, 30, 37 and 41. The ball is number 1. The estimated pot, £6.5 million. From the Sky News Centre, Martin Smedley.
Talk Sports. Sports update.
I'm Murray Collins. Great Britain's Rugby League I'd have a lot to do if the Ashes for the first time in 31 years, having won up in the series last week. The full force of the Australian Pash. The Aussies have squared the series with an emphatic points to 12 win at the Reebok. Aussie Andrew John, man of the match.
The way we played it, desperate we were. You're showing how much it meant to us, and really this will mean nothing come next Saturday. We don't perform, so I hope everyone gets out and supports. It's going to be a great game.
Old Sol Campbell says it wasn't returning to White Hart Lane. Campbell was hit with boos and jeered every time he touched by the Tottenham fans in the one, but he says it's all part of the game.
It's my first time being here, so you got a kind of good account of yourself when you respect your own. Not a problem.
Elsewhere, Liverpool go the Premiership after a 1-1 draw with Blackburn. Southampton dropped to the bottom. That's a derby by a 1-0. Go top of the nationwide first. They beat Coventry 2-0 Highfield Road, and in Scotland wins for Celtic and Rangers. And the big result from the first round of the FA Cup was Ryman League Cannon Island knocking Wigan by a 0-0. England's rugby have scored the biggest ever winning in the history of the game. Fly high, Charlie Hodge scored 44 points on his day in the 130-0 win over Ramiro at Twickenham, and he loved it.
It's just been a dream come true, really. I mean, I didn't expect it to be like this, to score 2 try my debut points, so yeah, it's been brilliant.
And also Ireland to New Zealand and Wales beat Tonga. That's it for now. More in an hour.
On 10:18 and 53 AM. Tommy B on Talksport.
Alexei will steal the show 5 seconds, steal the show in seconds, steal the show in seconds, steal the show in 2 seconds, steal the show. So, I'm gonna steal it. So, I'm gonna steal it. So, I'm gonna set. So, steal it.
Got enormous, so we better crack on. It's hours of wrestling until 10 o'clock when it's the wonderful King Wrestling. Tommy Boyd. Alex Shutt is our expert. We also have the lovely Nikita here, the UK's #1 woman wrestler. She's after the side of things, and we'll get to some more of those in just a moment. Let's go straight to the phone. Deborah, our next caller in Yarmouth. Sport. Hi.
Hi, I think Steve Austin WF, because he's acting like how he was when he went up his face, like how he was singing with The Rock. I thought it was quite fun.
Yeah, I think really hoping that he actually does. I think it'd be a better, you know what, instead of him going all babyface, I think it'd make a lot more being tweener, go back to the original style what he loved. It made us chance to be accepted fans again, because as a heel, strong as he is when he's a good babyface, a fact. And as for Helmsley coming in as a babyface, I think that's a bad idea, because I think he's a much better. So hopefully swap the roles a lot more sense.
Thanks for your call, Deborah. Douglas is next. Ingham. Hi, Douglas.
Hello. Yeah.
Off you go.
And when they said if you win the titles at Survivor's job, no matter which wins. Well, just thinking, say like the Dudleys become tag champs, but then the Alliance win, then the WCW are going to have like WWF titles and like go on their own. With WWF's going to go on with their WCW titles and all over the place.
It's a really confusing situation. I think that's what I think in somewhat Vince wants, because the thing with confusion. As in the past, when it was something that was confusing, like an angle that didn't quite work, it's like, okay, it's confused, just won't take in it. But because it is being sold as the future of, I mean, there's guys' careers. If it actually just down on company now, and they get rid of a phase, come jobs with WWF, and that fact now. The confusion moment is so good for selling the paper, because I know I'm going to be watching it just because I'm really curious as to what's going to happen. And I think that's why pay-per-view is great. If it doesn't, I think that says it's very bad for the WWF at the moment. This is the pay-per-view I think they had. When I say historically, it's on the Invasion stream, but this really is the pay-per-view that I wanted Invasion to be. And if the match quality can to some of the past pay-per-views, then it'll be excellent. But from an in point of view, I can't wait for Survivor Series.
Cool, Douglas. Emails, Nicole, what have you got?
Yes, I've got many interesting emails. My favourite point is because regarding from Chris and Black, think about Mick Foley's shoot interview on Raw. Mick Foley's career with the WF over now. Yeah, it's someone I come on a show, sometimes make it, I've got it in front of me, a list of points that need to be had Foley written in big letters, because the interview that gave on was a very powerful interview. Now, people are saying that it's a real interview. I think half the fact of the matter, it was because what he said was real. He did turn up to one in his hometown Ireland and told that he wasn't being. The point he made about the titles in the WF meaning absolutely nothing, because everybody's got one at the moment, is also a valid point. And also the fact that William Regal's a heel, but he said if you support for William Regal against The Rock, is also a point for it being Foam Regal are very good friends. Now, I've said that because I don't think it was real, but a lot of people has basically known Mick Foley for a long time, known as being one of the professional people in the business, and that was real. Shocked a lot of people. So I mean, it was half and half. I think it's one of those things. What he said real, but no real malice behind was. I don't know any of the backstage piece that he went along with the flow of the, but it's definitely an interesting point.
10 past wrestling on Talksport. A couple of emails very quickly for me, so I'll read them if you're for me, Nikita. But I'm going to embarrass hope. Stephen Collins from Sedgefield, Nicky Durham says, hi, great show. I was just wondering, Talksport Wrestling for January the 9th is confirmed. What do I do now? Tickets weeks back, and I'm not sure what I'm waiting for. OK, we're still negotiating the bill, Stephen. We're still to American wrestlers in particular. And what I'm going to do right now is something that might not have happened before, which is tell you absolutely everything that's happened between myself and Jerry Lawler, which is that I managed to get hold of himself on the phone, chat with him about 8 weeks ago. Referred me to an agent, a guy who actually, York Fighter is his agent, who obviously was busy last 6 or 8 weeks, but nevertheless was able to negotiate between Talksport and Jerry Lawler. And what it came down to was Jerry Lawler is playing happily, but very busy. So could he? I was talking about money. Have a guess how much Jerry Lawler you think for one night's wrestling in the kingdom? Okay, have a think. Answer: $7,100 is his call, but that doesn't include being flown here. And what I found out is that a lot of us like to fly business class because they're big eyes and they're wide seats. Alex, you wouldn't fit in an airline seat.
No, when we went to Germany, it was a total
ridiculous
nightmare.
all the way. It hang strap all the way.
The company was
and then there's the accommodation business. So kept prowling around. And then Sexy Kicks, because he's looked after by the same agent, because obviously Laura close blood, aren't they? We got then was a deal, 13,000 a pair of. Went back and said we can pay that, but we won't pay accommodation. You can look after yourselves out of what we. And that's when we got the news. Jerry Lawler will now be available on January the 19th. So the last email me is it just that he's not available on January the 9th, or is he not going to be available, period, in 2002? He's getting back with Vince, you see, in which case he wouldn't be able to work, would he?
Well, I have emails coming in saying that he resigned, and there's actually rumours that he and Ric Flair will turn up Monday Night Raw.
They need something big coming off the Survivor
They need
Series,
something, don't they? I wonder if it's our friend Jerry. Well, what he said to do is, come what may, he will talk on go. Doesn't get in the way. So he stops anybody signed to doing anything in anybody else's ring.
Yeah, basically. Okay. Unless it's one of the developmental territory got to, as a feeder system.
Which we haven't got one of those in this country yet.
We could get one.
For that, wouldn't you?
I'd go for that, and I'd even so far as if they do have a London off and chat about possibly with the FW.
And Rick Wilson has emailed, what does Nikki look like? Shall I do that, Alex?
Describe me, why not?
Tall, fit, dark-haired, high arch eyebrows, Stephanie McMahon-ish in many respects. What, taller line than standing up about?
Sorry, just saying I've got arthritis in my hands and I was stretching my arms. Yeah. Sorry.
Understood. Is that about right?
I've
got you at 5'8". 5'8",
Yeah, about 5'8", yeah.
5'8".
Right.
Okay, I hope that helped. 08704 to 2020 we speak, and wearing lycra. Oh, I made that up. Matthew from Shine, you're on Talk.
Tommy.
Hi.
I just wondered, Cole and The Rock haven't been getting on too well as late, and I just wondered if the situation had a big match on this.
It'll be interesting whether it or not. I think out of all of them to do the team, Jericho would be a bad choice. I mean, I'd probably turn in the end. I'm not particular. It would be a bad choice because it's so obvious.
I think Jericho's been promoted level of incompetence. I think he's a stage too far. I don't long there. When you see him mixing it in the ring with, Baker, Kane, is it just meeting Big Show, Rock?
I don't know. I thought I respect a level much higher than like the Big Show and Taker, for the fact that Jericho's got movie style look, which also always comes in handy. He's someone that's charismatic. He's not boring. Also very good in the ring. So he does appeal to the actual wrestling fans. He also appeals to the female audience. He's quite funny, and he's not